She looked into the camera and whispered, "Touch all of the skin." The world blinked. Some clapped, some looked away. Her name was Vanessa Xtravaganza, and even if you've never seen Paris is Burning, you felt her impact. This week marks Transgender Awareness Week, celebrated each year from November 13 to 19. It's a moment to lift trans voices, share their stories, and celebrate their identities while recognizing the discrimination and violence they still face. It leads into the Transgender Day of Remembrance on November 20th, when we honor those lost to anti-trans violence. Today, we're walking through legacy, from the ballroom floor to Hollywood's lens, from Angie Xtravaganza's chosen family to Jonathan Bailey's Classy magazine cover. We're mapping visibility. Who gets seen? Who gets paid for being seen? And who disappears after the credits roll? It's Wednesdays. Hello, gays, straights, the in-betweens, the allies, the curious, and the I'm just here for the comments crowd. Welcome back to yet another episode of Wednesdays with Woody, where we are interrupting your regular Wednesday to bring you some fabulousness and obviously to honor Transgender Awareness Week. Now, before we get into it, let's start with what this week is about. It's a time dedicated to raising the visibility of trans and gender diverse people and to celebrate their resilience, artistry, and contributions to the world. But awareness isn't just a hashtag. It's an act of remembering, of seeing what history tried to erase. So today, we're talking icons and archives, from ballroom mothers to magazine covers, because visibility without understanding is just another performance. I am not here to preach. Just like everyone else, I'm here to learn, to listen, and to celebrate. Let's start where queer creativity built a home, the ballroom. Picture New York City in the late 1980s, loud, dangerous, and dazzling. For queer and trans people of color, especially Black and Latinx folks, the world outside could be brutal. So they built one inside, the ballroom scene. Long before voguing hit MTV, ballroom culture was an underground refuge where people could compete, perform, and be crowned for categories that mirrored the life they wanted. Think realness, executive, femme queen, schoolboy. It was imagination as survival, a place where you could create yourself, then walk it out with pride. Janine Livingstone's 1990 documentary Paris is Burning captured that world. Its joy, its pain, its language. And at its center were women like Vanessa Xtravaganza and Angie Xtravaganza, members of the House of Xtravaganza. Venus was young, trans, and radiant, a woman who dreamed of fame and safety, both elusive for trans women of color at the time. She was murdered in 1988. Her story a haunting reminder of how visibility often came with danger. Angie, Vanessa's house mother, was the beating heart of that family, nurturing and protecting her community with grace and grit. And if you've ever said shade, work, or realness, you're quoting ballroom. That's its cultural legacy. It's shaped the language of pop culture, from RuPaul's Drag Race to Beyoncé's stage. Yet the pioneers often went unnamed or unpaid for the culture they created. So as we remember Vanessa and Angie, let's ask ourselves, what parts of trans brilliance are still underground? Whose work are we celebrating, and whose shoulders are we standing on? Now let's talk about Paris is Burning, a film that introduced the world to ballroom culture, but also raised questions that still echo today. Janine Livingstone, a white lesbian filmmaker, shot the documentary with empathy, but also with an outsider's gaze. Some praised her for giving visibility to a hidden world. Others criticized the film for commodifying that same world, for turning lived struggle into spectacle. Representation is hardly ever neutral. It's shaped by who holds the camera, who edits the footage, and who profits when the story goes mainstream. That's not just true for film, it's true in brand storytelling too. Think about it. Who tells your story? When a brand posts about inclusivity, are they amplifying voices or just curating diversity like an aesthetic? The gaze matters, because visibility without agency is just surveillance in softer lighting. Paris is Burning also became a lifeline for many who saw themselves reflected for the first time. For some viewers, it was educational. For others, validation. Both can obviously coexist. The point isn't to cancel the film, it's to learn from it. Visibility is power, but context gives it integrity. And if you've ever wondered why representation feels so political, it's because stories decide whose humanity is seen as worthy of empathy. And empathy, in turn, decides policy, funding, and safety. Let's fast forward to 2025. Jonathan Bailey, yes, our Bridgerton heartthrob, has just been named People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. The first openly gay man to ever hold the title. Progress? Absolutely. History? Definitely. But also irony. Because when mainstream media celebrates queerness, it often celebrates the safest version of it, the one that looks familiar enough not to scare anyone at brunch. Visibility has climbed from the ballroom to the billboard. But what happens when queerness becomes marketable, while trans people, particularly trans women of color, remain the most at risk? According to reports from GLAAD and Trans Murder Monitoring, 2024 was one of the deadliest years on record for trans individuals worldwide. Visibility can be a victory, but it can also be a target. Trans Awareness Week asks us to celebrate trans and gender diverse people, their contributions, and their courage. Yet, celebration without change, well, it's just confetti. It's easy to feature a trans model in a campaign, harder to hire them full time. Easy to say love wins, harder to fight for healthcare access, housing, and safety. For creatives, the challenge is this: visibility should never be seasonal. Every story, every strategy, every screen is an opportunity to build a more truthful world. Celebration starts with credit, continues with compensation, and ends with protection. Transgender Awareness Week leads us into Transgender Day of Remembrance on November 20th, a day founded in 1999 by activists, and I hope I'm saying this correctly because y'all know I hate mispronouncing people's names, Gwendolyn Ann Smith, after the murder of Rita Hester, a black trans woman in Massachusetts. Each year, names of victims of anti-trans violence are read aloud. Some years, the list feels endless. It shouldn't exist at all. But remembrance isn't only about grief. It's about continuation. To remember is to resist erasure. To say, we see you, you mattered, you still matter. And remembrance must evolve into action. What does safety look like when it's proactive, not reactive? Maybe it looks like inclusive education, where kids learn trans history alongside world history. Maybe it's a workplace that recognizes chosen families and their benefits. Maybe it's storytelling, spaces like this one, I hope, that invite trans people not just to be featured, but to lead. To many listeners, you don't have to be trans to participate in remembrance. You just have to care. Care enough to listen, to support trans-led projects, to challenge jokes that punch down, and to create space where everyone can exist without apology. And if this feels heavy, good. That weight is empathy, forming muscle. I just want to circle back to Jonathan Bailey for a second, because this moment matters. Bailey's win as the first openly gay, sexiest man alive isn't just a milestone for queer men. It's a shift in how mainstream culture frames desirability itself. He's not a caricature of masculinity. He's romantic, articulate, and proudly himself. It signals progress, that queerness can finally be aspirational, not controversial. But the bigger question, if Jonathan Bailey represents progress for gay visibility, what does progress look like for trans visibility? Who gets to be the sexiest, the most powerful, the most influential? The reality is, trans people are still fighting to be seen as human before they're celebrated as icons. And this isn't about comparison, it's about inclusion. Bailey's win is a door opened wider, but trans people still need an invitation to step through. The future representation has to hold both, the joy of gay success and the urgent need for trans justice. Because real visibility is not just the spotlight. Now, for those of you who are new to this conversation, let's slow down and talk about what it means to be transgender. Not as a concept, but as a lived reality. To be trans means that the gender you know yourself to be doesn't match the one assigned to you at birth. It's not new, and it's definitely not rare. Trans and gender diverse people have existed across every culture in every century, from communities in South Asia to two-spirited people in many indigenous nations to early trans advocates. Today though, even with this long history, trans people still face disproportionate levels of violence, unemployment, and discrimination. According to the Williams Institute, about 1.6 million people in the US identify as transgender. 1.6 out of a population of about 340, million? 1.6 million people in the US identify as transgender. And surveys show that nearly 1 in 4 have experienced a hate-motivated attack. In South Africa, the 2021 Love Not Hate report found that nearly half of trans respondents had faced harassment or assault because of their gender identity. But these numbers don't define the community. Resilience does. Trans people have been artists, scientists, leaders, and activists shaping the world in ways we rarely see credited. From Hollywood stars to writers and activists, grassroots organizations running shelters and advocacy groups across Africa, trans excellence isn't emerging, it's enduring. And still, behind every statistic, there's a heartbeat. The person who gets on a bus and hopes today won't bring another slur or stare. The transgender teenager coming out online because it's safer than home. The parent balancing transition and childcare. Real lives, and not headlines, make up this movement. Globally, research by organizations such as, I think it's LIGA, and the UN show that when countries protect gender identity in law, education, and healthcare, outcomes improve for everyone. Mental health improves, safety improves, That's the truth the numbers hide. Equality doesn't just help trans people, it heals society. And maybe that's what Trans Awareness Week is asking of all of us, to move from sympathy to solidarity, to stop asking about trans people and start listening to them. Because the stories we uplift today will define the kind of world we inherit tomorrow. And I really do hope that it's an inclusive world, one where we can all coexist, no matter your religious background, no matter if you're straight, or if you're gay, if you're lesbian, bi, trans, queer, whatever the case might be. I just hope that we are building a world where every human being feels valued, feels seen, feels represented, feels like they're part of the human race, because this is the only planet that we are currently all inhabiting. These are the only experiences that we know of. And I don't know, maybe we just need to take a step back and remind ourselves that we are, in fact, on a rock, traveling through a solar system. And this is it. This is it. There's nothing more. From Venus and Angie to every trans creator rewriting the story today, this week isn't just about awareness. It's about gratitude. It's about lineage. It's about looking at the people who built the runway and making sure it stays open. So, this Trans Week, honor the icons. Watch Paris is Burning if you've never watched it. I highly recommend it. I do. It's one of my favorite films, or documentaries rather. Learn a name from your local community. Donate, amplify, educate. And while you're at it, throw a little ballroom music on. Because joy is part of resistance too. Until next week. Love, light, and liberation. Ciao.